About Ricky Jones said earlier his reaction to the Stinson trial, the Jason Stinson trial, and the death of Max Gilpin. What is your reaction to the verdict? They came back criminally not guilty. There's still a civil case out there.
Sure, and it's important to understand the difference between the burden of proof in a criminal case and a civil case. I used to be a prosecutor, so I handled criminal cases, although now all I do is civil cases. But in a criminal case, a prosecutor has to prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. And that's a very, very tough burden. That's a very high threshold. And so if the defense can create any doubt, any reasonable doubt in the eyes of the jurors, then the juror is obligated to come back with a not guilty verdict. So it's a very high threshold, as it should be. And where in a civil case, it's, where if you're thinking on a scales of justice, beyond a reasonable doubt being very, very high, in a civil case, it's, well, what is more likely than not? And a negligence standard is totally different than being criminally culpable with the prospect of being sent to jail. So I think that, it's two totally different procedures. In my opinion, I still just, from what evidence that I've heard, all I know is what I see in the media, just like everybody else. But just based on my own experiences of dealing with heat injuries and heat training, through the Army, I just think that he didn't do enough to make sure.
Well, we certainly know in the years ahead, rules and regulations will change. So as his family said, if something good comes out of this, it will be a change in those. We're taking your phone calls for Karl Truman, the attorney, 502-267-2422. We have a call right now in Carrollton, Kentucky, from Amber. Good morning, Amber. What's your question?
Oh yes, I'd like to know if it's legal. I'm currently moving, and I have until October to move out, and if your landlord can shut off your electric and your water.
So the question is, can a landlord shut off?
Did you say, Amber, a landlord is shutting off your water or your utilities?
Yes.
And you're not ready to move yet, but your landlord is shutting them down?
Yes, I have them. I don't have to be out until October.
Until October. Okay, thank you very much for your call. So landlord's speeding up the process, I guess, a little bit.
Yeah, taking the law into their own hands. No, a landlord can't just shut off your utilities to kick you out. Even if you weren't paying your rent, they can't just shut off the lights and utilities. And you didn't say who's paying that bill, if you pay that yourself outside of your rent, or if you pay that as part of your rent. No, you could have what's called a claim for constructive eviction. If a landlord makes a premises or makes an apartment uninhabitable through their actions, then you can actually have a claim against them for constructive eviction and get your damages for having to relocate. So they can't it's not that easy for them to do that.
Amber, you may want to call the Truman Law office, call Karl in his office. Maybe they can help you in this case if the situation persists. 1-800-ACCIDENT. Now, if you want to call us this morning, Karl is here, 502-267-2422. We're also taking your emails, the WBKI legal line.
And as you point out, Craigie, this is not particularly a case that I would handle because I just do injury work myself. That's where my practice is focused on. But even when people call, as you pointed out before, even when people call about matters that I may not handle, we try to steer them in the right direction, whether it's other attorneys that we know that do that work or Laura Referral Service. So we do try to help people, even if it's not something like a landlord-tenant case that I
and we've talked about that before. Karl's like a Webster's dictionary. He knows a little bit of everything about various laws, and he has a great blog page on there. You can go there and learn about a lot of things. So again, if Karl can't immediately help you, he will put you, and he works with the Bar Association, and we'll put you in the direction. We got an email from Doris in Louisville. Now, Karl, you're going to like this one from Doris in Louisville. She talks about a neighborhood dog. And Doris in Louisville writes, a neighborhood dog darted out in front of my car. I swerved to avoid hitting it and ran into a mailbox. The owner of the dog refused to own up to what happened. Now I have to fix the mailbox in my car. Is there anything I can do?
Well, certainly if the dog darted out in front of you, then you could have a claim against the owner, and perhaps their homeowner's insurance may cover it. If they refuse to honor the claim, or if they refuse to even turn it in and say no, they're not responsible, then possibly depending on the size of the damages, maybe look at small claims court. I don't know what the damages are to your car or how much damages were, but certainly small claims court something to look at. Because if there's not a lot of damages, the problem is that by the time if you hire a lawyer, you may not be better off in the end by the time you pay a lawyer and all the court costs and fees that go with that, depending on what the value of the damages is. So we don't know in the email what the damages are, but certainly small claims court would be something to look at.
Karl Truman is here taking your phone calls, 502-267-2422. Pat from Louisville and Valley Station, good morning. You have a question for Karl.
Yes, it's about power of attorney. I'm a widow, and I have 3 children, and they're always asking me about my power of attorney, and I don't have one. But is it necessary to have one?
All right, Pat, thank you very much for your question.
And that's an issue that everyone needs to be aware of, and whether deals with estate planning, dealing with wills, what's called a living will, which is if you want life prolonging measures, or a power of attorney. A power of attorney, basically what that means is that you are giving someone else complete power to act in your behalf. It can be a limited power of attorney. For example, if there's a specific transaction, buying a piece of property, and you need someone to be able to act for you, that's a limited power of attorney because it's limited in scope. But a power of attorney, and if you need assistance, for example, someone help, for example, my mother, she's 87 years old and she needs help writing checks, paying bills, and dealing with doctors and things. Well, she's given my sister a power of attorney that she lives with her, so she can help take care of things for her. But the thing to keep in mind is that with a power of attorney, you are giving that person complete authority to do anything you could do yourself, and it's someone you very much need to trust, because it could easily be abused.
We have another phone call, Louisville, Valley Station. Seem to be listening in this morning. Want to say hello to everybody in Valley Station. I believe Tamara from Valley Station is on the phone. Good morning.
Good morning. I have a question for you, sir. I've been on short-term disability, and it went into long-term disability. And then a company that I have worked for, they automatically have someone that wants to file your Social Security for you. I didn't want to file it. I said, no, I was going to try to go ahead and go back to work.
Right.
But I'm really unable to. In fact, I'm worse now than what I was when I first had to leave work. But I guess my question is, I'm getting ready to go up for a hearing. And, of course, I don't have an attorney. This company, you've probably heard of them. They come in, they have a pretty good high success rate of getting your Social Security, helping you try to get it. But I'm going in for a hearing. Does that look good? Because I was turned down the first time, but now I'm getting ready to go for a hearing.
All right, thank you, Tamara, for your call from Valley Station.
Yeah, Tamara, the reason they do that is because most private disability plans or employer-sponsored plans have a provision in them to have an offset for Social Security disability. So they have an incentive to get you on disability as quickly as possible, because then it moves the financial burden of your disability from them to the rest of us, the taxpayers, in Social Security. So that's why they do that, and while it may help you, but their motive isn't purely, to be of a benefit to you. It's to get you off of their payroll and put you on the government payroll, because those plans have an offset. I don't know what the company is you're talking about. Certainly, you're not obligated to use them. If it's a free service, by all means, if they're going to help you get that and that's what you need to do, then go for it and let them take care of you if it's not going to cost you anything. But that's why they do it, because their plan would have a provision to offset, to reduce your private disability benefits with whatever Social Security you get. So that's their motive, is to get you off of their paycheck.
And that's why Karl Truman is here every Tuesday. I think we had another call or two, but we're not going to be able to get to those calls. But if you have a personal injury, a workers' comp question, or anything, 1-800-ACCIDENT,